living and loving for me. I want to be happy and free.
Living and loving for me. Just like a natural man. Like a natural man. Well, thank you for letting me be myself as we enter the fourth leg of our journey under the banner of Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, where real men don't play. Our theme for today is the business of disease. I'm going to read a short quote from the late Steve Jobs. He said, "Being the richest man in the cemetery doesn't matter to me. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life." Today's show, The Business of Disease, is a diverse look at health and the prospects of wellness. Doctors take an oath to do no harm. Economic forces have compromised doctors' ability to treat people from that vantage point. So we're going to dig into this from various perspectives. But before we go there, I'd like to introduce to you the brother riding shotgun next to me. It's a family affair. He's a cousin of mine. Please welcome Mr. Frank Wilson from F. Wilson Realty, man. Welcome to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner.
Well, thank you, Bobby, for having me here.
You know, over the years, I've seen you pay a lot of attention to taking care of yourself. Is there a particular reason why? Was it an illness in particular, or you just decided you wanted to live a bountiful life?
Well,
outside of just making money, which you have done pretty well. Man.
Well, it's not a particular reason. What it really is, it's just you want to live good and keep your blood circulating and your mind working at all time. And it's really funny. I used to breed German Shepherds, and I noticed that we was preparing these dogs to be healthy just to breed. So then I thought about man. I said, why is man taking care of dogs but not taking care of self? And so at that point in time, I decided to start exploring the anatomy for as health is concerned and how to prevent different illness and what stress would do to you before the illness comes.
Some of us call stress worration.
But it'll kill you.
Both of them will. But you know what's interesting, the way that you put that in perspective, you own a number of fine automobiles, and I've seen people around the country and anywhere I've been practically, and you'll see them on Saturdays. Some people wash their cars every day. You know, they keep them just immaculate, right, inside and out. And then you look at them and you're like, that's a dead man walking, about 350 pounds, breathing heavy, you know. I wonder what is it about our culture and our society that compels people to direct most of their attention to the external things as opposed to taking care of themselves. What do you think, Frank?
Well, it's a taught effort. I think that they just don't know because they are breastfed with knowledge from the house which have no knowledge. And so they just mimic that which they know.
Man, that kind of just stopped me dead in my tracks, man. I thought you were going to expand upon that a little bit, and you pulled on the brakes. But the theme of the show, The Business of Disease, I've got a guest coming on momentarily by the name of Dr. Louis Yu. Dr. Yu is of Korean descent. He has an office in the Sherman Oaks area that is one of many offices he has around the world. He practices alternative forms of medicine. And I've seen the genius of his practice in the form of a fighter that I'm associated with by the name of Isaiah Agostama, who is a light heavyweight. He's the Latin American light heavyweight champion. And we integrated some of Dr. Yu's principles into his preparation for a recent fight in Haiti. He's fighting again on March the 16th in Haiti. And what was interesting is that Dr. Yu integrates some forms of traditional medicine with some of the out-of-the-box kind of things that he does. And because of the many regulations that we have here in the United States, it's certain things that he has to do outside of the United States. And it raises the question, what is the construct of healthcare these days? I mean, how do you define it? What does it mean to you, for example, Frank? Healthcare.
Well, healthcare, That's really interesting because the healthcare today is a conspiracy through their drugs for side effects. And if you could condition your body with natural products, which that's where they get their products, but they modify it, then you will heal yourself. But you got to have patience. I had an experience where just being an athlete, wearing my legs out, martial arts, jogging, gym rat, and so I wore out my cartilage. So I went to go see the bone doctor, as I call him. But I noticed in his lobby, everybody was missing some type of limb.
As in amputated?
Yes. And so when I was talking to Dr. Stevenson, that's his name, and I said, Dr. Stevenson, what can we do about this, my two knees? He said, well, you have three choices. I said, three choices, what are they? Well, we could remove them and give you artificial. We could put some foam in it.
I didn't like
And
either
I
one of those.
can't recall the third one. But what was interesting was he never looked me in the eye. So I said, Dr. Stevenson, let me do it my way. And so I Googled natural herbs to rebuild tissues. And that's when I discovered that I was running a deficiency in my proteins, in my white cells that rebuild tissue. And I just kept thinking, I said, why couldn't we break an arm and then it'll heal itself? And so it took me literally 3 years to restore my knees to the point to where I could go back doing martial arts, jogging if I choose to. But I'm so inundated with joy that I'm back woken. I'm just leaving the sports to the young guys.
You know, that's interesting. There's been so much emphasis lately on the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, the repeal of Obamacare. The new Trump administration is touting that they got a better way of providing affordable care to the American population. And what's interesting about that perspective is nobody's talking about prevention of illness. Why do you think that is, Frank?
That's because they just want to promote insurance, get paid, and set it up. You know, this is not ironic, but it's really facts. Of course, you probably could recall. And I'm not trying to say I'm vintage, but what I'm saying is we only had one drugstore.
You mean old?
Right. That's a better word. Okay. And then all of a sudden, I start seeing all these drugstores popping up. See, I knew there was conspiracy. So they don't really care about the correcting the illness. They want to create the illness. You see, so now all of a sudden, you have these different words, these different names for different illness. Folks at 30 years of age are coming up with stage 4 cancer.
And diabetes and all this kind of stuff.
And just all the kids obese. I never seen an obese kid when I was their age. And it was totally out the ordinary if that did happen.
Very much so.
You see, so I think that what the people need to do today is pay more attention to their health and read the products that they are buying to put in their system. See, water, be careful, like what happened in Detroit,
Flint,
Michigan. Be careful of the water, the different juices that they are giving you. See, these preservatives have a side effect for medicine.
Speaking of consequences of not taking care of yourself and not staying abreast of the things that are important as part of a wellness program on an individual level, as a realtor, share with us some of the consequences of catastrophic illness. When somebody gets sick that hadn't paid off their home or whatever, what are some of the things that could happen if you get sick?
You just lose. You just lose. So if you get sick and you lose, you basically just didn't prepare yourself. But in any case, real estate will literally kill you because it is high in stress. So you have to take herbs and nutrients to prevent this from happening. Okay, so and another good point is, see, a lot of people, especially in these inner cities, they want to exceed their budget. You really should never exceed 33% of your gross income
to buy a home.
You see, split the pie 3 ways. 33% for the home, 33% for saving, 33% for living. Then you sort of will keep the illness out of you. Then you don't have to worry about the embarrassments. You don't have to worry about being depressed to the point of suicidal. So you don't have to concern yourself about not having enough money to pay the insurance versus the house.
So have you encountered situations where people maybe had to sell their house because they accumulated so much debt from catastrophic illnesses?
All the time. They just, it's just hard on the family. And the answer is yes. You know, it's just so consistent.
Mm-hmm.
It always happens.
You know, in this day and age where prices of homes fluctuate so much, do you see more of it now than ever?
Yes.
Oh. Well, I've been waiting on this call for a few minutes now. The gentleman who's about to join us on the show, Dr. Romeo Brooks, is a phenomenal person. He's an author. He was a fireman for over 30-something years. He runs a fitness center in Inglewood, California. A phenomenal mind and a wonderfully compassionate human being. Dr. Brooks?
Yes, sir.
Welcome to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, man. How you doing today?
I'm good, Bobby. Appreciate it. How are you?
If I was doing any better, I had to take something for it.
There you go.
Now, we are the same age, 62, about to turn 63, and we took different routes getting there. Your diet and my diet are not comparable. We share a water together, but you have followed a different path. Could you speak to why you wrote the book, Body Intelligence?
Oh, you're asking the question why I wrote the book?
Yes, sir.
Well, it's because there's a disparity in the black community. You know, the blacks only represent 14% of the country. And, you know, it seems like it's more of us because we live around each other. But even though we only represent 14%, we lead the entire country in high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, stroke, cancer, obesity, kidney failure, fibroid tumors, endometriosis, ovarian cysts, respiratory problems, you name it. And my question was, you know, how can arguably the strongest people on the planet, the most athletic people on the planet, the most agile people on the planet, probably the most spiritual people on the planet, be the shortest living people on the planet? And so I asked the question, is it diet? Is it racial tension? You know, is it socioeconomic? Is it our view and map of the world? Is it lack of exercise? And it's some of all of that. We need to be conscious. I mean, energy is the commodity of health. An abundance of energy is an abundance of health. And sickness and disease is simply an energy crisis. But the total absence of energy is called death. And so most people are somewhere in between there. And so my thing is, I had to get out and tell my people, look, how to build health, how to build energy. And that's what it comes down to. So my thing is, most people think that sickness and disease is an attack on the body, you know, something going wrong, you know, you have some kind of genetic thing, you know, which has a factor in it. But most people think like drugs is the answer to health. And so my contention in the book is that you cannot poison the body into health. You can't take more and more toxic drugs, put them in an already toxic body, and expect it to improve. There is no one on the planet that has cancer because of a lack of chemotherapy or radiation. No one has high blood pressure because of a lack of high blood pressure medication. There are many people with high cholesterol, but it's not because of a lack of Lipitor or Crestor. Some people get headaches every day, but it's not because of a lack of aspirin. My argument in the book, and Body Intelligence, is that sickness and disease is simply the body making a request based upon its needs. It's literally saying, Bobby, hello, listen, stop doing what you've been doing to cause me to signal you in this way. And so when you answer the body correctly, you'll have health. But if you answer it incorrectly, you're going to have more signs and symptoms called sickness and disease. So my thing is, what we call sickness and disease is instituted by the body. It's made up by the body. It's initiated by the body. It's your body speaking to you. It's your body trying to warn you. I mean, it's just like thirst. We never consider it a sign or a symptom, but how do you know when you're thirsty? Your body tells you. Well, the question is, what is the body asking for when it signals thirst? And if we're all clear enough and conscious enough, we know the body's simply asking for water. not a Coke or Pepsi or Sprite or Cognac or vodka or Moscato. The funny thing is, as soon as you drink enough water, thirst leaves. Now, the point in that is that you didn't cure your body of thirst. You gave the body what it needed, and the symptom left. See, that's my argument. When you give the body what it needs, those symptoms leave. That's the bottom line. But we're trying to answer sickness and disease with drugs. And it'll never happen that way.
Never.
Argument in a nutshell, here it is in a simple statement. If drugs, which are poisons, toxins made in some pharmaceutical company, if drugs can make a sick person healthy, then they should make a healthy person healthier. I mean, you can't get around that. And that's what it comes down to. I did 32 years on the LA City Fire Department, and I tell you, I've seen people with all kinds of problems. I've taken people to the hospital on the ambulance with bags and shoeboxes with medication. 2 weeks later, they got 4 new medications, and they're calling me back to take them to the hospital.
It's not funny, but wow.
It's not. Well, what does that tell you? It tells you that you can't poison the body into health. But then it'll get more and more. See, and that's what people don't understand. I try to keep it simple. If you can understand that your body is 100 trillion cells that are bathing in 2 fluids. Most of us know about blood, but we don't think about lymphatic fluid. You actually have 4 times as much lymph fluid in the body as blood. But anyway, the easy way to picture is to picture 100 fish in a fish tank. Those fish representing your 100 trillion cells. Now, it's obvious to everyone that the fish are in the water, but sometimes we forget that the water is also in the fish. Well, that's how our cells are saturated by blood and lymph. Well, the funny thing is, as soon as you feed the fish, most of the food goes to the bottom of the tank and it decomposes. Well, of course, the fish are going to eat some of the food, but then they'll poop, and that poop goes to the bottom of the tank and decomposes. Now, when the fish tank gets poopy and stinky, even some of the fish die and go to the bottom of the tank and decompose. Well, that's what happens in the body every day. We all end up with undigested food, cellular poop, because our cells poop like we do, and then the dead cells themselves. You know, we forget about what happens to your dead liver cells, kidney, spleen, gallbladder, pancreas cells, brain cells, blood cells, ovarian cells, uterine cells, testicular cells. If they're not eliminated, they're accumulated. See, my argument is this. Most people in our culture, they always say you are what you eat. My contention is, no, you're not just what you eat. You are what you don't eliminate. That's what you are. And if it's not eliminated, it's accumulated. And wherever it's accumulated in your body is where your body intelligently gives you symptoms. So if the waste accumulates in the brain, we can call it Alzheimer's, memory loss, mini stroke, major stroke, or aneurysm. I mean, it can accumulate in your eyes. We'll call it nearsightedness, farsightedness, conjunctivitis, glaucoma, cataracts. Well, what if the waste ends up in your lungs? We can call it asthma, depending on where it is in the lungs. We'll call it asthma, bronchitis, emphysema, tuberculosis, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. But it can be in your heart. If the waste ends up in your heart, they'll call it a heart attack, or congestive heart failure, or a pericardial tamponade. It's just a bunch of names. If it's in your kidneys, they'll say, oh, you have nephritis, or in your bladder, cystitis. But if that waste ends up in your joints, we'll call it arthritis. It's the same thing. It's that waste. It's that acid waste and those toxins and the dead cells that haven't been eliminated from the body. So again, picture that poopy fish tank. Essentially, what the medical field is trying to do is put drugs in a poopy fish tank to improve the life of the fish. It's not going to happen. See, my contention is simple. Change the water. Clean the water. Change the water in the tank. All of a sudden, the fish will thrive. As soon as you clean the fluids that your cells are bathing in and you make them more alkaline, your cells will thrive. We ingest and create more waste, more acidic waste in our bodies faster than we can eliminate it. And our body tries to tell us by giving us signs and symptoms. But we think the signs and symptoms are indicative of asking for a drug. No, it's not a drug. Like the fish, I mean, think about it. Is your body, when your body signals with high blood pressure, is your body saying, hey, listen up, I need some hydrochlorothiazide, some clonidine, atenolol. Oh, yeah, that's what I need. And no, your body doesn't know what the hell that stuff is. Not at all.
So, you know, when you talk about body intelligence, some of the manifestations of sickness, for example, if you see a man that looks like he's about 8 months pregnant, what does that basically indicate from a health perspective?
Well, think about it. That's distension. Well, if your stomach was flat, well, just picture, your liver is supposed to be over here on the right side, sitting here, your spleen over here on the left. Okay, you got your kidneys, your gallbladder, you know. you got your stomach, you got all your visceral organs, you got your small intestine, large intestine. If it's supposed to be in here packed in, like these new cars, when you open up the hood, everything is packed in there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if your stomach is distended, that means your visceral organs are distended. That's crazy. How can they function properly when they're all sitting outside of the body, outside of the natural line of the body? Think about digestion is everything. You can cut off both legs and arms and still be alive. What's left? It's you. It's your torso. See, the body is an energy system, but we call it a digestive system because that's the way it produces energy. What we do is we put in food, create heat and energy, and then we're supposed to dump the waste. But it doesn't always come out. So that waste accumulates. It's just like when you burn wood in the fireplace repeatedly, you end up with ashes along the walls of the chimney.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cooked food leaves an acid ash in the body. And so it builds up this silt, this soot all throughout the body. And when the body is occluded or obstructed or blocked or you have some kind of adhesion, well, think about it. It's literally constipation. I'm going to be speaking in Riverside on Friday, and it's a Go Red luncheon, but it's really about heart. Well, think about it. What is a heart attack? Well, the number one killer in the country. But just simply speaking, a heart attack is constipated coronary arteries. Well, how do they get constipated? Because we take in and ingest more waste faster than we can eliminate it, and it ends up in the heart, and that's what the problem is. But that waste can end anywhere. See, that what happens is we get constipated on a cellular level, but that doesn't register in your nervous system. But after so many cells get constipated, then it causes tissue damage. And once you have so much tissue damage, it causes organ damage. It's organ damage that finally registers in your nervous system as a sign or a symptom, and then we go to try to get a drug to resolve it. No, the drug is not going to resolve it. You need to unclog those cells, unclog those tissues, unclog that organ. I mean, think about it. I call the trinity of the cells, I call it blood flow, lymph flow, and nerve flow. In other words, the blood feeds the cells nutrition and oxygen. The lymphatic fluid, carries the waste away from the cells, and the nerves move the cells. But if there's a blockage in blood flow, lymph flow, or nerve flow, it's going to show up in the body. I mean, let me keep it simple. What keeps a cell from doing its job? Because that's the bottom line. Because remember, organs are a bunch of tissues which are made of a bunch of cells. Even our organ system entirely. But what keeps a cell from doing its job? And it sounds like a trick question, but it's not. Because people don't realize your cells are like you, repeated 100 trillion times. If you think about it, Bobby, your cells eat, they drink, they poop, they have consciousness, they get pissed off like you do. Your cells have memory and imagination. The reason why you look like your parents and not like my parents is because your cells remember to look like your parents. Well, the funny thing is, just like you look like your parents on the outside, you look like your parents on the inside. In your cellular structure, in your viscera. See, cells remember how to be, how to act, and they exist according to what the memory tells them to act like. But the thing is, think about it. When I ask what keeps a cell from doing its job, well, what if you didn't eat for a week? Would you feel like doing your job?
No.
Of course not. Well, if your cells don't get the nutrition they need, they don't feel like doing their job either. They can't. What if you don't get enough oxygen? I put you in a concealed room, no windows and doors for a week. You have to rebreathe your own air. Well, cells can't get their oxygen, and they get listless and tired and apathetic just like you do. Well, what about water? What if you didn't drink water for a week? No hydration at all. So your cells get dehydrated. If you didn't drink for a week, you wouldn't know what was going on. Same thing with the cells. So what if you were constipated for several weeks? You didn't poop. How would you feel like working? Well, people don't imagine that their cells get constipated the same way. I mean, this is real. I'm thinking the worst case I had a lady that hadn't had a bowel movement. She had a bowel movement once every 2 months.
Oh, my goodness.
And she was like that for 11 years. Is that crazy?
She had an attitude problem, I guess.
Yeah, that'll make anybody mad.
Now, let me ask you this, because it's more than a notion to try to describe helping people help themselves from a health perspective in 10 minutes. I'm going to have you as a recurring guest on my show, but what is some simple things people can do starting right now to improve the quality of their health care on a personal level?
Yeah, immediately. You got to take in more live foods, more raw fruits and vegetables. Think about it. If we were in a garden, what would you eat? You would eat fruits, vegetables, sprouts, nuts, and seeds. You really wouldn't cook anything. See, the more you cook food, the more you change the physical and chemical structure of the food. And that's why it leaves a residue. Well, think of your intestinal tract. It's 30 feet long. Your intestinal tract's job is to extract the nutrition out of the foods you eat so it can feed all the cells. Well, think of a juice extractor. If you put in raw fruits and vegetables, you would easily extract juice, which would feed your cells, and then the fiber comes out. But if you took another juice extractor and now you put in bread and pasta and macaroni and cheese and pizza, well, you can see how it gums it up. Well, we've been gumming up this 30 feet between our mouth and our anus for years upon years and expecting to be healthy. Just because you put something in your mouth doesn't give you nutrition. But see, live nutrition, that's why I have people eat more raw fruits and vegetables. I always have them eat something raw before they eat something cooked. So literally, I have them drink their breakfast. You know, have a smoothie or have some light fruit in the morning, or like get a NutriBullet or a little blender and make some stuff and get it into your cells. And the reason for that is between 4 in the morning and 12 noon, your body's focused on elimination. That's why you have your biggest bowel movement in the morning. You have that strong, dark urine. You can have morning breath. Your body's eliminated through the palate. You can have waste coming out of your sinuses, mucus. You have mucus in your eyes. You can have new pimples on your face because the body's trying to eliminate through the skin. You even have discharges through your genitalia. The body's focused on elimination. So when you eat a big breakfast of cooked foods, your body shifts its energy from digestion, or I should say from elimination, and redirect it to digestion. So you interrupt elimination. And that's why people can eat 3-4 meals a day and have one bowel movement a day, or one every other day, or one every 3 days, or once a week, or once every 2 weeks, and think it's normal.
Well, Doctor, again, you have put out some information that absolutely demands a follow-up, and I really appreciate you taking our time. Now, you have an event Friday in Inglewood that you're doing, correct?
Yeah, that's right. We're showing a documentary called The Business of Disease.
And what time is that going to be?
That's going to be at 7 o'clock.
And the address?
1210 North La Brea Avenue. It's 90302. That's in Inglewood. 1210 North La Brea. Okay.
Man, thank you so much for stopping by Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, man. And again, you will be a welcome guest here anytime you can avail yourself, man. And I'll be talking to you soon, and I'll see you Friday at 7 o'clock.
I appreciate it, Bobby.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. We're about to take a very short call. I mean, a pause for the calls, and then we'll be right back.
Now have my baby. Since she went away.
They all start coming in with foreign money.
That's the great Ray Charles talking about Dr. Foster. He said when Dr. Foster took a liking to his girl, he knew he was through because he had money and medicine too. And since we're on the subject of medicine, the next voice you'll hear calling out of Nashville, Tennessee. And I try to be as transparent as possible. I got one cousin in here and another one on the phone. I'm so proud of this young man. He was an outstanding athlete at Riverdale High School. They were ranked in the top 10 in the nation some 20-some years ago. He left and went to college, took care of his business, and then he cut out his own path in the health and financial services arena. I want you to welcome to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, Corey Carney.
What's going on, brother?
Man, you already know. So today I asked you to be on the show, not just because we're related, but because you have been in the health and financial industry for a number of years now, and I want you to give my audience an opportunity to understand the significance of being able to try to avert some of the calamities that are associated with getting sick.
Absolutely, man, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to your audience, man. I think the content of this show is very needed and timely because people really, a lot of people don't know what's going on when it comes to health insurance, what they have, and even if they do have it, how to navigate it, how to use it to the best, so it's in their best interest. So I just want to commend you on the topic of the show. I know you've got other topics about health and being a proponent for your own health care, but about me, it's funny how the financial work that I do, really, it's around employee benefits and helping employees with, say that they are offered insurances and different things, just helping them understand it, what to take, what's the best bang for your buck on an individual basis, where it's inside of a job and even outside. Say if someone doesn't have that through them, say if they work for themselves, contractor, or their own business owner, setting up them in a way that it looks like they've got the benefits that companies offer inside a job. So that's how it started, just with working with 401k plans and that side of the business, the financial piece. But what I noticed was, and everybody that knows about health insurance or seen it at work, they know that the premiums kept going up, and every year you may get an increase in premium, and it looks like the benefit is cutting back. And so deductibles are going out of control. People paying high insurance costs, and then when they go to use the insurance, they have a deductible that's high, and it's just like you don't have coverage at all because you're having to pay for your medicines and your visits anyway until you hit a certain deductible. So, I mean, that trend's been going on for a while. Here comes ACA, Affordable Care Act, and I think the intent of that is good. I mean, I think that the people working on that knew that it wouldn't be perfect, but at least got the conversation going because it wasn't fixed at first. Costs were still going out of control. People, were still getting increases, so the trend was already happening. It just put the focus on it, and it's making people have to deal with it. They're going to have to deal with that. Now, I don't know what the fix will be, but what we did was just look at the opportunities of, okay, if deductibles are going up, people are having to pay more for everything, where are the holes? Where can we at least get people access to care that has nothing to do with insurance? And that's what we focused on, and happy to be in that arena. That's what we're doing.
Now, you and one of your associates, a medical practitioner, i.e. a doctor in Nashville, started a company. Could you speak on why you did that and what is the aim and objective of that venture?
I think you'll start to see this more and more. It's a company called Campus RX. Our website is campusrxnow.com. Go out there, check us out, follow us on Facebook. But what you'll notice is there's a trend in telehealth. What we find out is that we can cut a lot of costs out of the health insurance and provider care by doing certain things remotely rather than taking a trip to the doctor. Everything doesn't require an appointment and to get up and go to actually see a doctor. Certain things now can be diagnosed and treated remotely, and that's what our company does. It's telehealth. So we've tapped into a network of doctors. Over 3,000 doctors are in this network. We're in every state except Arkansas. We're working on them, but basically the way it works is you feel sick, and it's something, not an emergency, of course, but something, sinus infection, a flu symptom, or pink eye, or ear infection, or a child, with something like that. If you feel comfortable talking to someone over the phone and maybe doing a Skype telehealth visit, and it's really easy to request one of those consultations and to get a board-certified doctor on the phone or on the video to look at you and talk to you, ask you a bunch of questions, look at your medical history, what medications you may be on or trying to get off of. You're basically just talking to a doctor. It's access to a doctor, and if they feel comfortable with diagnosing you and saying, hey, yeah, you've got a sinus infection, I'm going to prescribe you a nasal spray and something like that, then you can get it. Now it's not. I don't want to be a proponent of drugs and.
Well, you were getting to sound like Frank Lucas. Nicky Barnes.
Hey, it's some things that we know we got it. We just know we need some relief from it. And,
hey, now, let me ask you a question then, because I accept that disclaimer. Are y'all amenable to adding naturopathic and holistic doctors to your roster?
And that's a great question, and I think more and more the popularity and the I'd say, you know, we're tapped into a discount program with holistic vitamins and that kind of thing, where people can buy through us to get discounts. As far as the doctors, I think in the different ones of the doctors, you know, I think they want to tell you what to do on a more natural, if it's something that's feasible.
Mm-hmm.
They're not making money. These particular doctors are not going to make money on prescribing medication. They're not over-prescribing, and they're definitely not going to put themselves out where they're naked.
From a liability standpoint.
From a liability standpoint, right. So they're just, you know, there's some home remedy stuff that they'll tell you to do. If it's valid, I use it all the time. You know, I had a nail infection on my toenail, and I just talked to the doctor. It's like, you know, one thing you can try is, you know, put some Vicks Vapor Rub on that, and gave me a regimen for that. You know, they're not always prescribing medication, but it's just good to be able to talk to a physician that's not rushed. You're asking questions about different tests. You know, say you get go to a doctor. If you do have access to a doctor, you go to a doctor and they order up an ultrasound because you have something going on. It's comforting to be able to ask another doctor, get an opinion, to find out what are they looking for. You know, what if I don't get it? What if I do get it? What could be some of the things they're looking for? Just to have a second opinion on that, not costing you any money when you go to do it. Our subscription is $15 a month, and that gives the total access to all of our doctors for your entire family, and there's no limit on how much you have to use it.
Well, Corey, thank you so much, man. And again, this is somebody who would be a recurring guest on Uncle Bobby's Country Corner. And what's that website again?
www.campusrxnow.com. Check it out. We've got FAQs for our questions, our most asked questions, and look out for telehealth, because it's cutting out a lot of costs, and I think any fix to the current system is going to have to include a big sleeve of telehealth included into it. So, man, great to hear you on the radio again, too, man. I meant to tell you that earlier.
I appreciate you, man. I'll talk to you later, family.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks.
Okay, we're going to take a very, very short pause to set up for the last segment, and we do have a phone call. Matter of fact, we're going to take this phone call right now, and then after that, we're going to take a short break to set up our last interview. We say maybe the best for last. Right now on the line, I think we have Sister Janae Kelly. Is that you?
Hello?
Yes, that's who this is. This is somewhat of a departure from the theme of the show, but not really. The show is all about models of possibility and best practices. I was taught by a number of different people that it's the books you read and the people you meet. A little over a year ago, I was in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, my hometown, and I met a gentleman from Memphis, Tennessee, by the name of Anthony Canada, him and his wife Trina. And he called me a few days ago and said, man, there's a young lady here in this city who has been raised right by her mom and her pops, and she's got something to say. And she read me a poem that she had written that exceeded her age and everything. And rather than me going on talking about it, Janae Kelly, would you please share your words with my audience?
Yes, sir, Uncle Bobby.
See, you done messed me up already. Go ahead, child.
I dream in color television, where tales of victorious ambitions are told, mixed with the poor people's intuition, new and old, and the weapons aimed are dropped and hands hold. But these are the dreams of a pretender, such as the stories of a forced dreamer, and the knowledge of a dropout scholar, and the pistol of a person who had life a little harder. But I still dream that life will be different, where understanding will be given to the ignorant, and education will be given to the illiterate, and importance to the insignificant. But that life that I dream, could it be real? If we could work together with the hands we did, if we could cure our fears, do you think we can heal? Where I could help you and you could help me. Wouldn't that be ideal? People say yes, but they do nothing for it. My dreams. They say I see beyond your skin. I see beyond your bloodstream. However, that's more imagination than reality. For my people still get slammed on concrete. For my people still get longer life sentences. For my people are still seen as America's menaces. And if I stand with my hands stretched to the sky, could you tell me if the bullet will fly? I dream of a man with big dreams and big hopes that people could be people. But a dream is just a dream, and a bullet makes people become lethal. However, I still lay my head on my pillow, and I dream of the king's sequel. I dream in color, not black and white. The world is not just that, not just wrong or right. It's made of dark and light, of peace or fight. So I dream despite the cold world giving me frostbite. I dream because my mom told me to increase my vocabulary. I dream because my dad told me to be visionary, to be extraordinary, and to be revolutionary. A citizen, a nation where citizens of any color can have a vision. Where we can come together without mental division, without the pointing fingers, without the suspicion, to rebuild and reimagine our lives without demolition. A desire of a reality of the forgiven. I dream in color television.
This sister read that to me. She's 15 years old, over the phone a few days ago, and I got chills. And it also reminded me of why it's so important to encourage young people to dream and to aspire and to give them platforms. Sister Janae Kelly, do you have other works that you've completed? Huh?
Yes, sir.
Well, I tell you what, at least once a month on my show, we're going to allow you to speak to us in a new voice, a young and fresh voice. And I just want you to know I'm so proud. I haven't met you yet, but I know you, and I know your spirit, and I know your soul. And congratulations to your parents for doing a wonderful job of getting you started on your way. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Janae Kelly. And I'll be talking to you real soon. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for the opportunity.
With your little grown self. Thank you for the opportunity. You ready for prime time, sister? So again, thank you so much for participating in the show today. And again, I'm going to find room for you from time to time to speak to us, okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank you, sister. We're going to take a short pause and set up for our last segment. We'll be right back. That'll make you want to get up and do something, man.
I really sing it if I knew.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
Hit that note.
If you didn't know, now you know. That was the late, great Bobby Womack. No matter how high I get.
Yes, sir.
And we got a hallelujah and glory story to tell you right about now. Sitting to my immediate right is Lamont Brooks, also known as Gooch the Great.
Ain't it, man?
Welcome to Uncle Bobby's Country
How you
Corner,
doing, Bobby?
man.
Pleasure, man. It's a pleasure.
Real quickly, this brother reached out to me through Twitter originally and let me know he had seen me on the Corey Holcomb 5150 show many years ago, and that he saw me on the Zowet Morning show, and then he went through an episode he's going to share with us now that should allow all of us to realize compared to what? When we look at the challenges that we've had to face, and as it relates to the theme of our show today, the business of disease. Right. How did you encounter the business of disease?
The way I encountered my situation was totally different than the average person. May 5th, 2015, I was incarcerated in Georgia, and I was putting on lotion, and I felt a knot in my chest. So unlike any other situation, I just can't go to a doctor. You'll have to fill out a sick call, and the nurse came up, and the nurse didn't know what to do. So A couple days later, I did see a physician in, jail, and he felt my chest, and he said, okay, I feel the knot. Maybe it's, bacteria or something. Let me give you an antibiotic. We're going to take these antibiotics for a couple weeks. If it doesn't go away, we'll go to the next step. So long story short, I take the antibiotics, and the knot got bigger. So he says, we're going to have to call someone in to give you an ultrasound. So a lady came to the jail. She had a little portable ultrasound thing, and she put the gel on my chest, and she's moving the fob. And right when I felt the knot, she's looking in the monitor, and she says, we have to get him to the hospital. So they called the lieutenants and everything in, and due to the crime I committed, they just can't rush me to a hospital. They have to make,
It was a violent crime, allegedly.
Kind of. So, so they had to make, sure.
This Reed Alley we talking, man.
Right. So they had to set up, a situation to where I could be transported to the hospital 3 weeks later. So I get to the hospital, and I see a cancer specialist. And due to my structure, he asked if I played sports or whatever, if I experimented with anabolic steroids at one time. I said, yeah. He said, well, that's good. Well, maybe the synthetic testosterone hardened up and it turned into estrogen and you don't have anything. So he gave me biopsy. He said, in any other situation, I would be able to call you directly. Well, I'm going to have to call the jail, and they're going to have to contact you and give you your results. So I said, okay, no problem. So, I go back to the institution where I was caged, and a couple days go by, and I hear Brooks to medical. So, I try to keep upbeat attitude, and I go in there, I'm joking with the doctor, like, hey, man, what's going on? So his back is turned to me, and he's looking through a folder, and as he turns around, he had a tear in his eye. So I'm so pompous. I'm like, hey, what's going on with you? Are you okay? He said, I'm fine. He said, but you have stage 3 breast cancer, male breast cancer. And I'm looking at your chart. And by what you're facing, it's more than likely you're going to die in here. I said, what are you talking about? He said, die. You mean like, game over. So I said, are you serious? He said, yeah. He said, for one reason, the facility is not willing to pay for your treatment. So you're basically on your own. So, he started crying, and his assistant started crying, and then the first time he told me in his life that one particular CO that had to be in the room with us, he was crying. And he asked to step out the room. And I said, I asked him for a second, before I went back in the pod with my fellas, if I could have a moment. He said, yeah, take your time. So, I got my game face on, went back to the pod, and, all the fellas were asking me if everything was okay. I didn't want to tell them. So I said, yeah, everything's fine. So I got on the phone and I called my attorney. He said, what's going on, Brooks? I said, I have cancer. He said, what are you talking about? I said, I have cancer. I have stage 3 male breast cancer. He says, man, this is crazy. He said, we don't have another court date for 3 months. Do you need me to do anything? I said, well, I don't know. They said I'm going to die here, man. So he said, look, let me see what I can do, and I'll try to get back to you, or you call me in a couple of days. So, my game face is still on. I didn't tell anybody. A week goes by, and 5:30 in the morning, Brooks, you have a court date. I have a court date? I don't have a court date for another 3 months. They said, look, get downstairs. We can shackle you up and transport you to the court. So they do all that. I get to the court. And as I enter the room, my attorney is sitting in there. He turned around. He waved. I waved back with both hands, of course, because I was handcuffed like this. And the judge comes in. He swears everybody in. And he says, Mr. Brooks, I've been corresponding with your attorney for the past week or so. He tells me that you have stage 3 breast cancer. Is that true? I said, yeah, it's true. He said, well, if I was to call the jail right now, who would I speak to? So I told him the physician's name or whatever. He said, let's take a little break. I'm going back in my chambers and make a call. So he's gone for about 5 or 10 minutes. He comes back and swears everybody back in. He says, Mr. Brooks, I just spoke to the doctor, and he confirmed you do have male breast cancer. So let me ask the DA something. He asked the DA, he said, knowing that this man has male breast cancer, are you willing to work with him in his sentence. He's facing 10 to 15. Are you willing to work with him? And the DA said, absolutely not, Your Honor. He said, good. I wanted to hear that. Being that this is my courtroom and I make the decisions in my courtroom, he said, Mr. Brooks, you're a free man. You're to go home and beat cancer the way my wife did. So I'm standing there like, what are you talking about? He said, you're a free man. So the DA stood up like, no. He said, I asked you if you were willing to help this man, and you said no. And being that you weren't willing to help, I took it amongst myself to make his decision. And like I said, Mr. Brooks, you're a free man.
This story, in the interest of time, takes another turn that is, and please try to tell it in 60 seconds if possible. What happened after you were released in terms of an experience you had with a gentleman who's no longer with us now?
Okay, in 60 seconds or less. Returning back to Los Angeles to fight my cancer, my buddy's father had cancer as well. And he knew it. And he said, man, everything's going to be okay. I'm going to take your cancer with me. So he said, you make sure you get another biopsy. So I got another biopsy. And the results came back. And the doctor called me into the office. A lot of people there. He said, Mr. Brooks, we're going over your biopsy. And we lined everything up. We don't know what's going on. But your cancer's gone. You no longer have cancer.
That's America.
So I had to sign all these papers for the American Cancer Society and things of that nature. But I'm cancer free.
Tell them the last part of it.
Where do we go?
After you left the office, you made a phone call.
Yeah, I was traveling down La Cienega in my car, and my phone rang, and it was my best friend. He said, "What are you doing right now?" I said, "I'm driving, man." He said, "You might need to pull over. I have to tell you something." I said, "What's going on?" He said, "Man, Dad just died, and he told me to tell you that he took it away from you."
When this brother told me that story, I literally said, you have to come on my show. And he's moved to tears right now, and they're tears of joy. As we begin to wrap up tonight's show, the business of the disease doesn't have to be our business, but it does have to become a focal point wherein we seize the reins of control, not only of what we put into our bodies, but what we expect out of our bodies based upon having the ability to make the necessary changes to live abundantly. As Steve Jobs said, it doesn't really make any sense to be the richest man in the graveyard. And the sobering news about the world that we're living in right now, especially with this new administration in here running amok, we had many of the problems before he even came into the office that still prevail. And so what I want to do with this show and with this universe that I'm constructing around me, and that are people like my cousin here, my brother here, and a couple of gentlemen that he brought with him that you possibly will get to meet in the near future out of Ghana, because this is a international thing that we're dealing with, is the business of health should exceed the business of disease. And as I close tonight, I just want everybody to take into account that you can't change anything until you change internally. And I grew up in the South, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, as some of you know, and most of you are going to find out. And I inherited the diseases of my people. I went to so many funerals as a young man from people who, including my grandmother, I watched them cut off both her legs. And then I saw my uncle die a horrible death, and I saw a lot of people just suffer because we love that soul food. And Lord, it's delicious. I still fry chicken every now and then now. But then I also consume a water that's produced out of a machine from Japan, and Frank has one of those machines as well. I got this brother on the water now. And it's not just the water, as Dr. Brooks said earlier. It's a composite number of things. One of my guests that didn't get to come in today, Dr. Louis Yu, he does some other things. It doesn't matter what you do, but you got to do something. You're going to have to do something to ensure your personal wellness. Because a lot of times we forget the doctors work for us. And they took an oath to do no harm, which means they have to give you some options, particularly when you take into account that they're under pressure from the insurance companies. On one side, real pressure, because they, in order to make their money, they can only do so many surgeries, so many this, so many that. And then in some instances, they'll do some extra just to make sure that everything works out financially, not for you, but for them. Right. They'll give you tests that you didn't need just because you had. The worst thing some people got is good insurance. I know people who have been played with because they had good insurance. So we have to become more knowledgeable and listen to the station that matters the most. And we all own it most of the time. It's called WIIFM. It really applies when you go to see a doctor. What's in it for me, Doc? What's in it for me? I want to get off this medicine. And that shouldn't even be something that you have to debate with a doctor about. Right. I should not have to live on medication. Right. There should be a time limit for this medication to either work or get me off of it. So don't let your fork and your knife and your spoon become weapons of mass destruction. This has been Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, where real men don't play. Thank you for letting me be myself. See y'all next week.